Hello and welcome to another GG Weekend Watch, again kindly sponsored by Bet UK. I am joined by GG's top two tipsters, Andrew Mount and Daryl Carter. However, before we get stuck into the horses, we do need to address the elephant in the room. That's not me calling you an elephant in the room, Daryl, but Daryl, you will have seen on Twitter that Daryl is moving on to pastures new from the beginning of next week. So from next Monday, this will be his last ever weekend watch. Off the record, he has promised me that he's going to give us all 7 winners. So there's no pressure there. But I just want to thank you, Daryl, on behalf of GG and just with everyone, all the followers, all the people that have been there over the years watching you progress, because you have smashed it. You've gone from strength to strength. You've earned every single opportunity you've brought upon yourself, all the way up to this deal you've got with, I don't even know if that'd be mentioned, so we won't mention them. But you've seen it as well, like you've got it on your own backing, right? SBC, best free tipster, 2 years on a spin. Your profit and loss speaks for itself. The level of detail you go into, the big price winners that you've thrown in there. So big thank you from me as a punter and a follower of your stuff. Big thanks from GG as well for everything that you've done. You probably need to say a few words to address your loving audience before we crack on with the horses. But also you guys out there, right? You know how much Darren appreciates your support. He does it because he loves passing on his information, his knowledge to people. He likes to try and help everyone out there. So drop a comment on the video to say thanks to Daryl. Any memories of your best prize winners, like the video, subscribe to the channel. But Daryl, do you have any parting words that you haven't already shared on Twitter for all those fans out there?
Yeah, obviously, yeah. Like just a massive thanks to everyone at GG, really. Andrew Mount, I've learned so much from him over the last couple of years. You know, the man of wisdom, and always there to sort of pick you up as well when things are not going your way. So I really appreciate that. I'm sure I'll always be texting Andrew when things are going wrong. He can send me the same line text message.
Change my number.
But the guys at GG, obviously behind the scenes that people don't see as well, who we report to every single day, work tirelessly and just trying to do the best by everybody that's using the website, etc. Shame Kate's not here, because I'd like to thank Kate as well, because she's been influential in this podcast over the last 12 months or so. But yeah, it's emotional, but you know, I've got to give this a go. I have to give this a go. It's been a dream of mine to go and work for Betfair, and I am going to have to just give it a go, and hopefully we continue progressing up the ladder. So yeah, just a massive thanks to everybody that's watching. I really appreciate the support, because I couldn't do it without them. So thanks, Dave.
Good man. Andrew, do you want to say anything to him while we've got this window? Because I want to crack on with the tip.
No,
really.
move on. No, I do say yeah, I've learned a lot from Daryl. I've learned that you can't drink red wine, white wine, and beer in the same 10-minute period during the same meal at the Derby Awards last year. And yeah, he's changed hands for more than Declan Rice. So congratulations to him. I do fear for his wife with their wife to be with their wedding night coming up, because he's going to say, "Sorry, love, I'm exclusive to Betfair." So hands off.
Let's get some winners tips. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Beautiful. Well, that's it. You have been professional throughout your career, so you're going to continue that role. We're going to get 7 ITB races covered here. We've got 4 from Newcastle, I think, 3 from Newmarket. We'll run through them. We'll get your guys' advice, where you're going to put up a selection for every single one. I'm going to get a nap from you at the end of the video. I'll also ask you if there's anything across the weekend the viewers should be keeping their eye on. So basically any other bets out there, all of those bets and the naps, everything will be shown on a still at the end of the video, so make sure you hang around. I've already said it, but like the video, subscribe to GG, and let's crack on. So the first race is on the Tapita. I think I said that right. The 12:20 Newcastle. It's the Jennings Bet Festival Handicap. It's a Class 2. It's over 6 furlongs. I think this was a race that has been won by a couple drawn in stall 11 the last 2 years, but there's only 9 runners, so that's the end of my insight for it. Andrew, you're the man that will know how to find us a winner in this type of race. Can you pick us off?
Yeah, certainly the last 5 winners have all been drawn in double figures. So, I mean, generally speaking, you know, middle to high on the straight course at Newcastle. There are exceptions to the rule, as there are to most rules. But I wanted to take on the top of the market here, Dave. Retier, I thought, was flattered when winning at Haydock last time. It was a horse who had been a little bit difficult to win with, often placing when you thought he should have won. And yeah, and I thought that Haydock win came because he was drawn on the far sides, where it was the bias had switched from the previous Haydock meeting when they were all winning down the stand side. Lethal Levi has yet to race on the all-weather. And I mean, you say Tapita, I say Tapita, potato, potato. and you know, we'll all call the whole thing off. But yeah, Levi's style, Lethal Force doesn't have the greatest record on to Peter in general. 3 from 55 over this course and distance. I'll be slightly concerned about the switch of surface. Magical Spirit is one that I'm slightly concerned about. His record here in Class 3 or higher. Company has won here, but he's tend to, when he runs well here, it's tended to be in Class 4 or 5 level some time ago. So a little bit concerned about that. Batal Dubai, I thought maybe needs longer between races. 26-day absence might not be enough. The one I keep coming back to is Soldier's Minute for the soon-to-be retiring Keith Dalglish, like Daryl, soon to be retiring. And yeah, he ran a good race at York last time in a draw bias race where he was down the near side. And you look at some of the horses, he finished 4th of 15. The winner was drawn 2, runner-up drawn 7. You look at the horses who were drawn high that day and raced down the near side. Abate was 3rd from stall 14, won next time out, and then returned. Soldier's Minute was next best of the stand side bunch. Gaffin Farr finished 5th from stall 15, place next time. As If By Chance, 6th from stall 13, a winner next time out at Windsor. And there's plenty even further down there who've sort of improved their RPR after running nowhere from high draws in that race. So yeah, Soldier's Minute for me, stall 3 of 9. Would choose a higher draw if I had the choice, but I'll take the chance at a price.
Superb. Daryl, I've only got like recent stats, so the last couple of years, but 5-year-old won the last twice. Andrew hasn't mentioned him, but Gordon Elliott sent one in it, and it's the only 5-year-old in the field. Got a line on Coachella as well as your best bet of the race?
Yeah, he's quite interesting actually. He's 2 wins and 2 placed efforts from 8 runs on the all weather, and this is a big drop in grade to what he's used to. You'd have to forgive the Curra run last time. It was a really tame finishing effort behind Art Power, but that was in Group 2 company. Like, he's easily a class above this level, but he's carrying 10 stone 2. He's off 104. He doesn't look particularly well handicapped. He's hard to sort of trust, I suppose. But he is drawn well in stall 8, and I do like high drawn runners at Newcastle, and he is one that very much interests me, that's for sure. Gordon Elliott actually hasn't got a good record on the flat when he's sending his sending runners on the all weather or on turf actually, but he's definitely one that interests me. The other one is Batal Dubai, who Andrew mentioned for Harry Roger Cholman, another one drawn high in stall 9. I thought he shaped quite nicely at Windsor on his seasonal return. He was just sort of shuffled out of mid-pack out into the centre of the track at Windsor. That's not where you want to be. You want to be down the stands rail if you can help it. First 3 or 4 who came home in front there came down that stand side rail. And I thought it was a nice sort of comeback run, really. It was his first run since October 2022 when he ran on heavy ground. I thought that was easily excusable. And he ran really nicely, albeit in a much lesser race than this last September at Newcastle. But he's an improving 3-year-old, gets a bit of weight. He's actually getting chunks of weight from most of the field in there. And I thought he just might go well against the stand side rail. So Batal Dubai around 8-1 do for me.
Superb. Right. Crack on to the second race that's being covered, which is the 1240 at Newmarket. It's the Empress Fillies Stake. It's a listed race over 6 furlongs. There's been some reasonable winners in this in the previous years. It looks like it's a pretty steady field in terms of we've got quite a few runners in there, but there is a pretty solid favourite in there. 5-4 Star of Mystery at the minute. Lucky number 7 as well. Daryl, give me a reason why it can't win.
I thought it was flattered at Haydock last time, track position, and you play that against another race on the card, and it doesn't look as impressive as the 11 length win suggests. I was
you to say.
Yeah, I was pretty sure they were going to put this all towards top of the market. William Buick, Charlie Apple with Newmarket. Horses won by 11 lengths last time, unexposed. So I quite like the chance of What a Question for Charlie Johnston and James Doyle. This horse did impress me at Goodwood when winning a good time figure. She ran going away in a maiden there. You haven't got a lot to go on, obviously. A lot of these have only had a couple of runs, but it was really quite taken the way she picked up. And given that she's handled the undulations of Goodwood in terms of undulation, I mean, like a downhill track. This Newmarket July course is like a bloody wave. It's up and down all over the place. But that would hold her in good stead for this. I think she'll be running promptly, and it'll be a case of if there's something better to pick her up, they will. But it'll take a good one to pick her up, I think. Recording an RPR of 84 on debut is pretty good going. So What a Question for me.
Superb. Andrew, how do you see this race?
Yeah, some interesting stats with this. The Emperor Stakes, 9 of the last 10 winners finished 1st or 2nd last time out. And it's a good race for horses who've had just one previous run. Now, 28 horses rocked up here, having finished 1st or 2nd on their sole previous outing. 5 of those won for a profit of £13.83. There's only a couple of qualifiers. Point of Attack and What a Question. What a Question, the Charlie Johnson runner, very, very impressive at Goodwood last time. That was on good to firm ground, won by, what was it, 4.5, 4 3/4 lengths, something like that. By Lope de Vega, I don't think the slower ground, officially good to soft at Newmarket when we're recording this on Thursday, is going to be a problem. That will have dried out by Saturday. So yeah, I'll go for What a Question to maintain his 100% record.
The stars have aligned. We're only into race 2. Twitter, the whole world knows it as well, especially if it's a nat. When you two come together, absolute banker material. So that was nice and easy one, wasn't it? Back to Peter. Back to Peter.
You can tell you're a jump.
Back to the all-weather.
Back to the all-weather. 12:55 at Newcastle. Chip Chase Stakes, the Group 3. Again, it's over 6 furlongs like the last race. We have installed as favourite at the time of recording. Slowly loading up. Rad's The Brief is 4-1 and Tiber Flow's 4-1 too. Spycatcher's in there at 9-2. Witch Hunters at 5-1. We've got Mount Athos at 11-2. This was a race that I struggled to get my head round. I was looking for some clues in the market, so I'm going to have to ask you two guys instead. Andrew, how do you see this? Because it looks potentially in the market much more competitive than the last race we looked at.
Yeah, this is very tricky. I normally find a bet in this race. I think it was Anaf I bet last year. It was second at 16-1, although it was well beaten. And I'm struggling this time around. I was interested in Mount Athos after the Windle, but the trouble with him, he's been beaten every time he's run a straight course, and he's got a really good record around a turn. I say every time around on a straight course, he's done it twice, but he does race keenly. So I think even though he's coming back in trip from 7 to 6, which is potentially a good move, maybe he's just going to race choke out, if he can't get cover. So he's unbeaten on the all-weather, but those both came at Kempton over 7 furlongs. So I'm going to return to my Spycatcher. It was one I put up when he won at Thirsk. I think it was on debut this year on soft ground. Since then, he's gone to the Victoria Cup, run a good race, finishing 4th at 22 behind Rebel Territory. And he's back on the all-weather. He's won at Lingfield. He disappointed in this race last year, but he was only 7-2, and then basically he was roughed up after that and gelded. So there's clearly, that wasn't his running. So I think it's safe to forgive that, and it will give another chance to Spycatcher at a bigger price than he was in this race last year.
Superb. Daryl, this looks like the type of race you'd like to get stuck into. We've got 8 runners, some juicy prizes in there.
Yeah, Spycatcher for me as well. I'm just hoping that Clifford Lee can, he's berthed directly in the middle. I'm just hoping he's going to come towards the stand side as opposed to go on the far side of the track like he has done the last few times he's run at this track. If he goes over the far side, I'd be worried for him, but hopefully he can come sort of towards the stand side. But I really fancied this horse for Woking him at Royal Ascot last week, but he turned out to be a non-runner, and I really fancied him for it because I think he's a 6 furlong horse. You go back to his run at York last year behind Highfield Princess in a Clipper Logistics. It was a fantastic run. He had Minzao in behind him, Highfield Princess ahead of him. It was a cracking run. He's got a good piece of form here at the All-Weather Champion Stakes last year in April behind Boutamont. I think that's a decent piece of form in the context of this race. I just think he's in good heart. I think coming back to 6 is definitely going to suit him. So I think there's a good bit of pace in here as well with Mount Athos. Prince of Perlo's likely to go forward. I don't think Brad the Brief will be too far away either. So hopefully Spycatcher can get the job done. I do quite like him for this year.
Happy days. And there was a horse last year, wasn't there? Trusham that skipped Ascot, came here, bolted up on the all-weather. So maybe it's worth paying attention to those that were ready for maybe a bigger meeting and they're going to be coming in here. So you're both in agreement again with the third race is in. Daryl's already showing signs that he's giving up because he's just copying Andrew every single race. I'm going to make you go first next time up. We have got back to Newmarket on the July course. It is the Fred Archer Stakes, a listed race. It's over 1 mile, 4 furlongs. This, to me, looks like a better class race than we've been looking at for the ones before. So no disrespect to the horses that are in there. This looks fairly juicy. Charlie Appleby had the winner of the race last year in Rebels Romance. He has got New London as favourite in here. Alassi's just close in behind at 2-1. Daryl, how do you split this? Is there something you fancy strong?
No, this is very, very difficult, Dave, honestly. James Doyle's on Kimari, William Buick's on New London. William Buick very rarely ever gets it wrong, as we know, but he's chosen right over Kimari for the last 5 times. So that's enough for me to be put off Kimari. New London's had a wind up tongue-tied first time. But obviously, he's been off 293 days. So you're taking a bit on trust at 11 to 10. The same with Aldaary, who's been off 420 days. Again, he's taking a bit on trust. So I couldn't back the two at the top of the market, but nor would I want to be against them, because I do think they're by far the best horses in the race. So it's very, very difficult for a strong opinion. I suppose if you wanted to maybe take a chance, Phantom Flight for James Horton, Step Up and Trip is surely a positive for this horse. He actually wasn't far behind New London in when they met last year at in the Bet365 handicap in July, and he just got no run, and he was staying on strongly. He was never going to match New London, but he is race fit, and Stepping Up and Trip is definitely going to suit him. So I'd give him a very tentative selection, but I'm well aware that Aldaary and New London are the class acts in this field. So yeah, I'm going to tread very lightly.
Fair enough. So token selection more than anything out of interest, probably one to swerve, you'd say, for punters out there.
Definitely.
Superb. Andrew, give the punters something to get stuck into in this 5-runner race, please.
No, I'm very much in agreement with Daryl. It's a hard race to be confident about. I mean, Outbox won this 2 years ago when a 6-1 shot is 33s, I think, now. And you in these small field group and conditions races at Newmarket, you often get a horse who just sort of gets that inside rail on the July course and makes all. Usually trained by Mark Johnson, though, but it wouldn't be the silliest, sort of £3 to win 100 that you've thrown away. Phantom Flight I looked at because you can back all James Horton runners on turf who weren't making their racecourse debuts and make a profit. I mean, Phantom Flight is interesting because the Sayuni I tend to regard as a sire whose progeny improved from the age of 4, but need slow ground on turf, or ideally need polytrack. And but he did win on firm fast ground at York last year. His dam won in the United States. I think his half brother won in the United States, both on firm ground at Delaware or something like that. Probably drugged up to the eyeballs though, so it wouldn't have mattered what the ground was. But, so yeah, sort of Phantom Flight I could half make a case for. Kamari was only second in this race last year when I think a 3-1 shot, and I just don't think he's right between the ears. He's probably going to make the running, but he's probably going to set it up for something else, and it'll probably be New London in the tongue tie after the wind up. So I'll go New London, but it's the kind of race that I'm quite happy just to skip for betting purposes.
Fantastic. So good advice all around there. You're giving a nice thorough analysis between the pair of you, but sit back, relax. But then we can get stuck into the 130, right? Northumberland Plate handicap?
Vars.
The consolation race, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Northumberland Vars. We will call it Northumberland Plate. It's 130. It's back on the Tapita, the all-weather. Blow Your Horn is currently 4-1 favourite, carrying £7 extra. Appier is second favourite, currently another one carrying extra weight in here. I think this race was won last year by Zoffi, who runs in the Northumberland Plate proper after. Where do you see this one going, Andrew? You got any stats or anything that can give us a clue towards the winner?
There's a couple of interesting angles here. One is the draw. Newcastle, big fields on the round course, distances of 10 furlongs or further. Very, very difficult to win from stalls 1, 2, or 3. The bigger the field, the harder it is. We know that front runners have a terrible record on the Tapita at Newcastle, on the round course. And so if you're drawn very low, you're likely to get sort of shuffled back, and you don't want to be coming the run up that far side rail. So I'll be looking for something sort of drawn, middle-ish, even high-ish, even in a huge field like this. And the other angle is consolation races. We saw yesterday with the Carlisle Bell consolation race, number 2 on the race card, Clear Angel one. But basically, you go back to 2015, you just look at any race, any handicap called with the word consolation in its title. You'd make a profit of almost 60 quid just back in the top 3 in the weights. Generally the best horses who didn't get in the main event. And so you've got Phalak and Appier, but they're both drawn low, 1 and 3. So I'm looking at Winter Watch for Harry Fry, third in the weights, coming out of stall 10. Well beaten last time out when hanging left-handed and probably failing to handle the track at Kempton, even though he has run respectably there before. I just thought maybe give him a chance to run a big race here around about 16-1. But it's not a race that I was particularly confident in, to be honest.
Fair enough. Daryl, how do you see it? Nice big field to get stuck into again.
Yeah, exactly the same way, mate. I've got more of a stronger opinion in the race proper, to be honest. But I was looking at La Hacienda, for Matthew Smith. In fact, I like two of it, both of his runners in there. Cozone's a massive price, 25 to 1. La Hacienda's around 12 to 1 chance. If you take the form of this horse's race last time out at Down Royal, literally, where she's been beaten 2 lengths by some pretty useful horses in Power Pelagi and Taipan, and even the former Aidan O'Brien runner Wordsworth was in behind, and she was staying on at the finish when denied a clear run. Like, that form in the context of this race is very, very strong. Now she's coming over here. She's gone well on your weather before. She looks quite progressive. Her RPRs are definitely rising. The last RPR that she recorded was 96. She's running off 85. Harry Davis claims 3. Jordan still 6. I'd be surprised if she's not there or thereabouts. She's a strong stayer. 2 miles at Newcastle will definitely suit. She's interesting. Cozone's the other interesting one. Drawn out at stall 11 for the same trainer. Jake Cohen's claiming 5 off. This horse looks like he's working his way back to a bit of form. He threatened to be quite useful a couple of years ago, and it's just very interesting that he brings them both over in this. This is a pretty weak race. Blow Your Horn, I can see why he's going to be popular. He's about 10, I think he was around £10 lower than running third in this race last year, and obviously he's an excellent fettle at the moment. He's running, he's looking for a 4-timer, so he's obviously going well. Appia, I'm just concerned about his stamina. Same with Hadrianus as well. So I'll go La Hacienda around 12 to 1.
Superb. So La Hacienda for you, Darren. It was win to watch for you, Andrew. Is that right?
That's right.
Superb. Right. Back to Newmarket. Got the 150. It's the Criterion Stakes of Group 3. We've got Aldaary in as the 7 to 4 favourite. He's looking to overcome a 420-day layoff, but he is a horse that's won on all types of grounds. Pogo won this race last year. Looks a pretty juicy race, again, for me being a bit of a snob looking for the top end of stuff. I thought this Aldaary before looked like he was quite a progressive horse. I don't know whether he's actually touched the ceiling or not yet. Darren, what's your views on him? Because again, you mentioned previously when these horses have had the big layoff, it can be something that puts you off. Would it put you off, Aldaary?
I'd be watching the market very, very closely. He's won all 3 starts off the back of a break, so he has done it before. And I have him down as a Group 1 horse because I think I've always liked him. I think he's a proper horse. He's obviously just had his issues. The fact that Jim Crowley's on board is a positive. I would look at it as a positive. But I would keep an eye on the market. He's been very lukewarm in the market in the short-term anti-post leading up to the race. He was like a 5 to 2 at one stage, and I can't imagine it's because he wasn't running. So I can see he's in at around 11 to 8 now. If he drifts, I'd be concerned. I don't know why. I've just felt a bit unsure about him all week. And if he does drift, because he is far better than these, in my opinion, if he does drift, I'd be very cautious of it. He's got his ground, ideal conditions. It's first time at Newmarket, actually. So that could be a factor. But outside of him, it's very difficult. Sam Maximus steps up and trip. He's 25 to 1 outside, but he's got a good record here at the July course. Narrowly beaten second last time on his last visit, and he was a winner previously. Audience is a horse I think we haven't seen the best of him yet. He absolutely dotted up at Leicester the last time we saw him, but it was obviously a lesser race than this. But he is definitely a 7 furlong specialist. He's going to be a 7 furlong specialist. And we haven't seen the best of him. Buick's back on Jumbie. That used to be a positive sign. He won at Haydock last time, but I do think that was a soft race. Berkshire Shadow, probably the most interesting for me. Dropping back from a mile to 7. This is also ran a Group 1 company the last twice, dropping in grade as well. His last start was 7 furlongs. He was a good winner at Wolverhampton on your weather, recording an RPR of 111. He hasn't had too many goes over 7 furlongs. Prior to that, he was beaten 4 lengths by Native Trail on the Dewhurst. That's pretty strong form, I think, in this race, where there's a few interesting runners, but nothing that really stands out. I mean, if Aldari's on his A game, he's going to be very tough to beat. But even if he is, Berkshire Shadow would definitely give him a race. So for me, Berkshire Shadow dropping back in trip, he should be going close. Pogo's he's just not in the same heart as he was last year. I don't know if he's on the downgrade. I don't know if it's been the switch of tactics, dropping back. If he goes out from the front, it could prove a different proposition than what he's shown the last twice. But I do think Berkshire Shadow is a very reliable yardstick. His run last time in the Queen Anne, beating 5 lengths, is not bad form in comparison to this, and a drop back to 7 furlongs is going to suit him.
Happy days. So I will just say before we move on to you, Andrew, that Aldaary, at the time of recording, he is top price available 7 to 4. The 11 to 8 you quoted is the lowest price it is. So when you're touching on him drifting, etc., he is already a 7-4-ish poke. So if he was 7-4 generally by the time this goes out, don't think that he's drifted out. You'd have to go bigger than that to do it. Pogo is taking up a good chunk of the market as well, only around about 130, considering, like you say, in no sort of form. Andrew, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I'll go with Pogo. I thought it was an odd move to run him in the Queen Anne. You know, a mile Group 1 company. He was 125 to 1 shot. They held on to him. You know, maybe he was just a social runner. Maybe it was a case of let's just, put him spot on for this. I just thought, you know, if they were going to pick up some prize money, that's what, if they thought they could, you'd think, well, they'd probably go from the front. So, yeah, I'd safely put a line through that. He won the race last year. He's drawn in stall 2. If they come across to the near side, that'll be handy. Audience can make the running, but that audience has been off the track for 260 odd days, so might not necessarily want to get into an early battle for the lead with Pogo. Aldaary, given that 3 from 3 first time out record, you've got to respect, but like you say, 420-day absence, and Daryl's been kinder to Jim Crowley than I might be. So yeah, I'll go Pogo to make all.
Superb. So we're kicking off now with the Heritage Handicap. We're finishing off with the Heritage Handicap. Easy for me to say. The Northumberland Plate. This was the race last year that I feel like got the racing world probably in quite a positive stance, because Trushan had that really impressive top weight carrying performance. There's obviously opinions that go about those sorts of things after. Have we got a horse like Trushan in again here last year? We touched on Zoffy, who won the consolation race last year. He's in here. To me, when I've looked through it, it looks a pretty competitive race. So, Andrew, this has got to be a big duty handicap, especially a heritage handicap. This has got to be your bag, right?
Well, yeah, I guess so, or has been in the past. But I was a bit gutted about the one I put up in Racing Football Outlook earlier this week. Mountain Road has come out with Store 1. Simcock, probably with Spencer on board, and a good record on the all-weather. Second by a nose, first, and one of those wins breaking the course record at Chelmsford. Yet the race on to Peter, but on breeding, actually shouldn't be a problem at all. But that's Store 1 draw. I worry. I might, you know, given the price 33 to 1 or thereabouts, I might just have to have a small interest when I have a close look at the pace angle of the race, if it looks like being a lot of it. But you look at some of the others. I mean, Rodzinski tends to go from the front. That's no good here at Newcastle. Rainbow Dreamer's a horse I love, but Rainbow Dreamer's got a fantastic record in small fields, single figure lineups, you know, virtually unbeatable on the all weather. You know, you look at those, those wins, fields of 8, 9, 7, 8, 7, 9, 4, 5, 3, 4, 4, 8, 9. Never won a double digit size field. 25 to 1. You could sort of say, you know, might, once they thin out in the latter stages, might end up coming through and getting a place, but I'll probably leave him alone. Calling the Wind just doesn't win often enough for me. He always attracts equal support in these sort of races, and but again, he just seems to find one or two too good every time. Zoffy, you give a chance to on that Chester form. Post Impressionists, again, first time out, stall 19. But I wouldn't worry too much about that, as long as there's good pace on. And Law of the Sea is another one that everyone sort of has been well touted. First time cheap piece, there's a positive angle for Ian Williams runners and handicapped, but stall 2 is you're going to get hemmed in on the inside. The Max We Can is another small field merchant, no show at Royal Ascot. I've got him down as one to back the next time he runs in a small field, but sadly he's not here. Nathaniel Green I can make a case for. But even Green Team, one of the outsiders trained by Ian Williams, might not be completely out of it. But I'll go tentative on Mountain Road despite the draw, I think.
So if the draw would have been a bit kinder, you'd have been fairly keen by the sounds of it. But it does look like type of race. Plenty in with chances, I think, in there. You haven't mentioned Zoffy, though. Daryl, give us a line on Zoffy before you crack on with whatever you fancy, please.
Oh, it was a smashing run, wasn't it, at Ascot? He came from miles back, miles off the pace. It was a brilliant one. He's in great form. Look, he was 4th in the Cesarewitz. He was 2nd in the Chester Cup. He doesn't do a lot wrong, does he? But I'm just wondering if he will again find one too good. And it's actually the horse that has already beaten him in the Cesarewitz, and that is Vino and Victrix. I really fancy this horse for this race. I would just put a line through the last 2 runs. I know it sounds suspect already, but both in deep soft ground. He doesn't want soft ground. You go back for his record. He's only had a run. He was beaten 18 lengths at York on soft ground. They've avoided it since then. He's not got a bad record on the all-weather, despite the 1 win in 8 starts. But he has been in the frame on 6 in the first 3 and 6 of those 8 starts. Prior to that, he was turned out quite quickly after finishing 2nd in the Cesarewitz behind Run for Oscar, right? Pontefract, it was turned out like 9 days later after a Cesarewitch run. It just made absolutely no sense. So he went off a strong favourite for that, but I think you can put a line through that. I'm not a massive fan of these real stay-in tests being turned out quickly. I don't think it works. Prior to that, it was very, very progressive. He is rated 93. He's a pound higher than when second in the Cesarewitch. And if you go back and watch that race, he didn't really get a clean run through, and he was staying on very, very strongly at the finish. I think he's a well-handicapped horse. I think this has been the target for him, and I think he's going to go very, very close. I don't know what the best price is on him at the moment. I think he's been backed a little bit, which is a bit annoying. Post Impression is the favourite. I loved this horse last year. Like, every time he ran, I had my money on him. It was getting so frustrating. And then finally, he came good on his final start last season. The one, like, sort of thing I'd be worried about with him is that if he gets caught further back than ideal, he hasn't really got the pace to sort of weave his way through. Do you get what I mean? He's a real out-and-out galloper. If it was me, and I'm backing him, I'd be hoping that they're going to get out and try and get on the front end of things and just keep grinding away. This Golden Rules in second, I mean, I'm putting my neck on the line here, but I can't have that. That win at Kempton last time was like terribly slowly run. What was it? It was 10 seconds outside of standard. Just a top speed figure of 17, and just had to run on the race. Everything left him alone. He was very, very flattered, in my opinion. Adjuvant is a good horse. Andrew, like says, backed him a couple of times last year, I think. He's progressive, definitely progressive. But I am slightly concerned about horses that want to come from well off the pace like he does in these big field handicaps like this. I just think you're putting yourself at an immediate disadvantage. So I'm hoping, I'll probably have a couple of quid on Law to see because he stung me the last 3 times as well. But I'm hoping Vino Victrix is going to be ridden sort of midfield, and I think this could be the 5-year-old's day for Hughie Morrison. So Vino Victrix for me.
Superb. You touched on the price there with him. Obviously, has been getting nibbled in. At the time of recording, he is 16-1 with a few bookies. So is that sort of still juicy enough for you?
Yeah, I've been take anything more than 8-1, Dave.
Happy days. Right. I'm going to ask you if there's anything we should know about or any fancies you've got away from the 7 races we've done. I'll quickly review those, and then I am going to ask you for your naps. I'm chucking a nap in as well because neither of you have been able to put it off me. So, Daryl, I'll come to you first. Is there anything away from the 7 we've covered that the viewers need to know about?
Yeah. Tom, get your pen ready, mate. In the 30, this is not in time order. In the 307 at Chester, I think Princess Shabnam's going to go very well. In the 8 o'clock at Doncaster, Snash is interesting. He gets a first-time visor. He won in first-time cheek pieces last time. I think the market will be all over this solar orbiter, so Snash could cause a little bit of a surprise there. In the 355 at Windsor, Sly Madam caught the eye at Royal Ascot last week and returns to the scene of our last victory. She could go close. 4:30 at Windsor, Educator. This is a horse for William Haggis who's failed to sort of build on his promise. But last time at Kempton, he really did come home strongly. His closing sections were very good, and he just could be ready to strike. In the 5:05 at Windsor, I think Swift, if the draw doesn't become his undoing, he was another one who was finishing well at Goodwood last time. He could go close. And 3:25 at the current Pretty Polly Stakes, Via Sistina, who Andrew tipped to absolutely bolt up at Newmarket last time, should be of massive interest. She should be a firm favourite. I haven't seen no prices. If she's not,
4-1, I think, Daryl. I think about 9-4, 7-2, 4-1. She's third in.
Well, I mean, I'd be happy with that. I mean, obviously the colour might not suit her, but I do think she's a horse going places very fast. In a 3:05 at Newcastle Noble, this horse returning to the all weather. We've not seen the best of this one yet, and people have written him off far too easily. And just let me say, on Sunday at the Curragh, in the 150, His Majesty. If this horse turns out after Ascot in the Railway Stakes, up to 6 furlongs, take a world of beating. And then in the 6 o'clock at the Curragh on Sunday, Mr. Escobar. Will he get in the race? I'm not entirely sure, but this is a well-handicapped runner from Willie Mullins. He was entered in the Northumberland Plate, but he didn't get in. I'm surprised he didn't go for the consolation race, but he's in on Sunday at the Curragh, so keep an eye on those.
I mean, you're most certainly going out of a bang. There was quite a few of them you sounded relatively confident on. So they're going to go up on the graphic at the end of the video. So you'll be able to see every single one of those names. You don't have to worry about making a pen list. You'll be able to get that right off the back of it. Andrew, have you got as many fancies away from the ITV7 as Daryl has?
No, nothing from me. No, I've got Windsor, the 4:30, Youthful King, back at the scene of his latest success, drawn in stall 3. I've not been through the looked at the pace map and seen how how many other pace angles, if any, are there. But I was quite impressed with that third at Sandown last time, when the track wasn't favouring his running style. The 540 at the Curragh on Saturday, Newfoundland, for Joseph O'Brien. I thought he'd run well on the Ascot Stakes. They didn't run him in the end, and he started favourite in his 2 runs for the yard, and a mile and a half too sharp first time, mile 6 too sharp second time, and he met trouble going up to 2 miles. First time cheek pieces, Ryan Moore on board. Not seen any prices, but I thought he'd run well. So that's it for elsewhere from me on Saturday.
Superb. So there's plenty to get stuck into. I really appreciate your guys viewing on this sort of stuff as well, because it does help me, as someone that does know horses to an extent on the flat, navigate through it. I know all the viewers will be really appreciative of it. So again, drop a like, drop a comment with what your best bets are on the weekend. We are going to quickly say what our naps are, and this is going to be one hell of a nap from Daryl, because this, I mean, who knows what the future holds. This potentially is Daryl's last ever weekend watch nap. So I'm going to make the viewers wait for that. Andrew, what's your best bet of the weekend?
I'll go the first race in Newcastle, Soldiers Minutes, around about 8 or 9 to 1, and good reasons for taking on those at the top of the market, and could be a bit of value.
Superb. My nap for the weekend is in that 150 Newmarket, that Aldaary. I thought he looked like an absolute beast when we did see him 420 days ago. I know Daryl said about the price, there could be drifts and stuff, but I think he's well worth chancing at the price. And Daryl, we need a little, not the Twitter trumpet, but we need some sort of little fanfare. Honestly, pull it out, mate. Give us I've got something to go out with a bang. Give us a big bad boy nap. All
right, Vino Victrix will win the Northumberland Plate.
Holy, clip that. That's
yeah, if you're wrong, Daryl, don't come back next week.
Superb.
Right,
well, again, thank you both again for your insight. Again, special thanks to Andrew for putting up for Daryl for so long, and I guess some sort of special thanks to Daryl for doing what he's done for all these years. It genuinely is really appreciated. Big thanks as well to Bet UK for again kindly sponsoring the video, and the biggest thanks has to go to you guys out there that support us, view these, comment and interact. So thank you again. We will see you again soon. No, well, not all of us, but some of us will be back next week.